like I'm messing it up.
No,
Let's be honest.
I like it lived in. I like it stained and ashes and all that jazz.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. What's happening?
In town to, do my thing.
Doing a show tonight at ACL, right?
Telling jokes to strangers, what we do.
Nice.
And, of course, when I got the invite, how can you turn down the king? I know you hate being called the king, but you are, Joe, so bask in it a little.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's always good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
How are you enjoying doing your podcast?
I love it, especially since I've been thrown out of work by the strike, so it's what I have left plus the touring. But that, touring is a couple of weekends a month. Podcasting doesn't take that much time either. I don't do it every day like you, but it's nice to have an outlet. It's also nice to be able to talk to people in a non-political way. I mean, my show is for, let's say, people who know things. my HBO show.
Right.
You just can't really enjoy that show or watch it if you're clueless. It's like I'm speaking in Chinese.
Right.
So, and that's okay. That's a lot of the people in this country that would describe. They're not involved in politics or what goes on in the world, or, don't ask them what the ACLU is or NATO. These things are just not on their radar. And that certainly also describes a lot of celebrities. Their intelligence is artistic intelligence, generally, I would say. It's a different kind of intelligence. It's not worse or better, it's just different. So to be able to talk to a lot of people on Club Random in a setting where I can just be high as a kite and constantly blowing pot smoke in their face, first of all, it's just a joy. It's a sign of the progress that this country has made. To think that I used to sweat bullets going through every airport in this country because I had this much little pot that I was hiding under my balls.
Right.
That's really where I hid it.
Yeah.
So that if the dog sniffed it, that they'd be embarrassed, I hoped, to look there. And now I can freely smoke pot in a nationally aired program is kind of amazing. So I'm enjoying the fuck out of it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's also nice to have like a pretty completely open format so conversations can really air out.
Right.
When you don't have to worry about running out of time. And
right.
You also can kind of let them breathe a little, because sometimes you really want to let someone talk for a long time before you try to interject and pick apart their argument. You really I want to know what you're really thinking. I don't want to be confused.
Again, that's kind of what you pioneered.
Yeah.
And we're grateful for it. And I do like that. I also find it's interesting. The setting makes a big difference as to what arouses the furies on the left. If I said so many of the things that I've said on Club Random, on a podcast, on Real Time, on HBO, they would have had my head.
Yeah.
But somehow, when I say it in the setting of the podcast, in my own home, blowing the pot smoke, somehow it's okay. And I find that very interesting.
I think they look at you like a guy who they're worried about because you don't toe the line.
They should be. Exactly.
You're like a 90s liberal. You're like liberals back when they were more reasonable, before they became leftists. And now every liberal kind of has to be a leftist. It's not if you want to be on the team, you got to subscribe to the most fringe ideas that the team is promoting. And I get in trouble with that too. It's such a, there's so many, like Joe List has talked about that recently, the comic Joe List, very funny guy. And he was talking about I'm a 90s liberal. He goes, what? I didn't change. It's like everybody else kind of changed. It got real weird, like what you're allowed to disagree with and not to disagree with. And, it's strange.
I'm always trying to make the case that liberal is a different animal than woke.
Yeah.
Because it is. And you can be woke with all the nonsense that now implies, but don't say that somehow it's an extension of liberalism.
Right.
Because it's most often actually an undoing of liberalism.
It's a
So
new
you
thing.
can have your points of view and your positions on these things, but don't try to piggyback on what I've always believed. I have always believed, as liberals do, for example, in a colorblind society, that the goal is to not see race at all anywhere for any reason.
Yes.
That's what liberals always believed all the way through. Obama, going back, Kennedy, everybody, Martin Luther King. That's not what the woke believe. They believe race is first and foremost the thing you should always see everywhere, which I find interesting because that used to be the position of the Ku Klux Klan, that we see race first and foremost everywhere.
Yeah.
So, again, you can have that position, but don't say that's a liberal position. You're doing something very different.
I think the idea behind it, I think I understand their idea. The idea is that the society is imbalanced. And so in order to address that imbalance, you're going to prop up as many minorities as possible, make as many opportunities for minorities as possible, and get it to a position where there are, like, white people are a minority. And so that's not a concern anymore. And that through that, somehow or another, you'll achieve equality. I think the way to achieve equality is your way. I think the colorblind way is the way to really truly achieve equality and to truly judge people just on their merits, but also recognize that if we don't address the problems in this country as far as like how disenfranchised some people are and how horrible some communities are that people grow up in and people find themselves stuck in with no recourse, no way out, no role models, no nothing, no financial opportunities. That's what our real problem is in this country, more than it is race. It's extreme poverty and extreme crime, and that these things don't get addressed over and over and over again. And in fact, a lot of the policies that you see coming from places like San Francisco and Portland, and they just exacerbate it. You're just seeing stores closed because, like, okay, you can't just steal. Can't just have everybody just walk into Walmart and steal. I was watching a video where they were showing a Walgreens and they had everything chained up. Chained.
Oh, yeah.
Chains.
Even minor little things.
Yeah, little
like,
things.
Like frozen food dinners.
Yeah. Yeah, they had the frozen food section chained
Right.
off.
No, again, that's not... Liberalism was never... shoplifting is progressive.
Right. Yeah.
And we weren't interested in legalizing shoplifting, or as I guess we should call it, justice shopping.